This episode of the Power Monkey Podcast is brought to you by our amazing sponsor, UCAN. If you have a full day ahead, check out UCAN, the go-to solution for high-performing athletes and executives who want lasting energy and focus. We've conditioned ourselves to think of sugar and stimulants as necessary tools of daily performance. These fuel sources produce fake energy highs and inevitable lows, driving feelings of fatigue, lack of focus, and the need to rescue the body from the crash. UCAN is different. Its unique time release profile allows for an extended energy supply that doesn't require a rescue mission and keeps your blood sugar stable, the key to better performance and health. This unlocks a powerful balance in your body's energy ecosystem, meaning you'll feel good longer and do things you did not think were possible. On a personal note, I've been using UCAN for over a year now. I love the product. We're lucky enough to have them out at Power Monkey Camp. I love the bars. I love the hydrate. All of their products are winners when it comes to our campers and our staff. Not only do they taste great, but they're also tools that we like to use whenever we're doing our workouts out at camp, and also just sustaining energy as someone who's coaching throughout the entire day. If you're interested in more, for our Power Monkey podcast listeners, you can get 25% off on UCAN by visiting ucan.co/powermonkey and using the code PowerMonkey all caps. Again, that's ucan.co/powermonkey and the code being PowerMonkey all caps. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, and this week my co-host is Mike Service, and our guest for the week is Fee Sagafi. Now, Fee is an incredible athlete, having competed at the CrossFit Games as an individual athlete, doing amazing things year in and year out, still striving to be one of those top-tier athletes, and we're really rooting for her, being that she just came to our most recent Power Monkey Camp, Camp 17 out in the woods of Tennessee just last week. And we got to know her, we got to spend real time with her, and we got to see not only what a great athlete she is, but also what an incredible person. We think you guys will fall in love with this episode and really start to cheer on Fee after you hear a little bit of her background, where she's training, who her mentor is within the sport, and what her outlook is for the upcoming season. Enjoy. All right, well, Fee, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. How are things going from the minivan?
Things are nice and spacey and warm in the mom minivan today.
Is this
no,
where
but
you
we're
normally do all of your podcasts straight from the minivan? Is this best acoustics, best Wi-Fi? What's going on with that?
I get a lot of alone time in here. Actually, I feel like everyone has their moment of like all you want to do is just sit in the car in silence and not be bothered, and it's just nice and roomy for all that. But also, I have all this space in the back, so now that we're going to be competing at Granite Games, I get to take all the equipment to the stadium and do some extra stadium training.
All right, so much room for activities in there.
So much room. Oh yeah,
that's nice.
Well,
I get made fun of though. Everyone's like, so I have a name for my car, my mom's car, and we don't just say the car or the Dodge, we say big girl. And so our car actually is a she, and her name is Big Girl. And so anytime I say I'm taking the car, I say I'm taking Big Girl, or Big Girl needs to go to the stadium today to train.
I like that. We've got to, I think, create some banners and stuff and some magnets to put on the car, so when Big Girl arrives at Granite Games, everybody knows.
Oh yeah, Big Girl's on her way.
You know, Fee, we're always in need of extra minivans at camp. So if Big Girl would be down to subcontract out for some shuttle runs at camp, we would gladly bring you back for that.
I think she would love to help out in any way.
Well, speaking of camp, we're all coming down from the high that is Power Monkey Camp, and you were gracious enough to come out as a guest for the first time to Power Monkey Camp 17 just a couple weeks ago, and wanted to recap and just see how your week was, what your experience was like, and whether or not you had a good time.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, it was an honor to be invited, because I feel like every time I've heard of Power Monkey Camp for years. I feel like every gym that I've ever walked into, there's always Dave on a poster and showing the perfect handstands. And it's like, don't do this, do this. And I'm like, I am the scorpion and I need to be 10 out of 10 perfect pencil Dave. No, seriously, my experience at Power Monkey Camp was so different from any other camps that I've ever been to, because I expected a lot of just training and just training around people. And it was definitely something that I was soaking in so much coaching, different perspectives, and just so many different people from around the world, which was such a wild experience. Never experienced anything like it.
Well, we always try to have a few guest athletes out, and all of them have brought something great to the equation over the course of the last almost 10 years now. But, you really were someone that dove in with both feet right from getting there. And we always kind of gravitate towards guest athletes that are always willing to put in the extra time and to meet the campers, not feeling like there's a separation between them as an athlete who need to get their own training in, which is very important, but also understanding that there's 100 campers here that want to meet you and want to talk with you and have a meal with you. And you really did that. You went out of your way to meet some of the campers. Did you feel like that interaction was unique and special in any way? I know the campers felt that way, but I'm curious from your perspective as a guest athlete, how was it interact with the actual campers?
I had this conversation actually with a couple people down at camp, and they're like, "Fee, don't you have to like train for Granite Games and your semis and you're in the heat of everything? Like, why would you come down here? Like, you're 4 weeks out." And talk to, I was in that conversation speaking on like, this sport and what I do and what I've been involved in has become so much about the people and the relationships that you build and learning from each other. And to have the opportunity to connect with people from around the world is not something that is always promised, and it's not something that you get to do often. And to be able to be at and on a campus that does that, like, it was no question in my mind that that's exactly what I wanted to do, versus like, picking and choosing little things and then off I go with my own training. I wouldn't have felt as present. I wouldn't have, received as the value that you guys bring to that camp. And at the end of the day, I'm one of the campers too. Like, I guess I didn't see myself as anyone different. I mean, I didn't see myself as like a guest. I truly just felt like everyone else, and everyone else is there to learn and soak it in from each other and take it all in from the different coaches. And that's exactly what I felt like. I didn't feel like any different. And so I felt like a true camper and nothing special other than just being one of them.
That sounds eerily similar to Scott. So Scott came quite a few camps ago, and it was at Camp 2. Wow. Yeah. So he surprised us because we hadn't had so many interactions with athletes coming to camp. And that was the full approach that he took. He asked so many questions at all the stations and was interacting with everybody. And I know we're a little bit curious if you've gathered that perspective, maybe from training at Mentality and from coaching with Scott, and maybe the two of you share similar approaches to, embracing the community and getting involved like that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it doesn't surprise me that you say that, because people that don't know Scott only know what they see, him being on the competition floor, which he's a very aggressive athlete. He wants to win when he's competing, no different than any other competitor. We're there to win as much as we can. And but behind the scenes, you'll realize he is truly about the people that help him get to where he wants to go. And you realize that even at the pinnacle of your career, even your highlights, your best moments, the gold medals, the podium finishes, the thing that you think about the most is not that one singular accomplishment. You think about everyone that's been such a big part of that. And he truly holds himself to that standard, but that's who he is. And I think even with me starting my small little CrossFit journey, it's always been about the people who have helped me and been surrounded by me, and who I've been able to be surrounded by as well. And I feel like nothing that I do is done on my own. It's a reflection of the people around me that have helped me along the way.
Can I ask, how did your relationship, I don't know if it's like a mentorship or what, but like when you started working with Scott or coaching over there, like how did that relationship start? Like, where did it come from?
Yeah. So funny enough, I actually didn't start at CrossFit Mentality. I actually started at a gym closer to my house, probably like a 5-minute drive, to be honest. And I started there for about a year and a half. And then I found out that Scott was opening up his own affiliate. And so after about a year and a half, I truly was like thinking about, who I wanted to be surrounded by and the coaching and just a different environment, a different community that would best fit me. And that's how I pretty much connected with Scott, because Scott opened up this affiliate and had like a free workout that day, bringing people in from the city. And so I went in for a free workout, absolutely fell in love with the coaching, the community. I got to chat with him a little bit. And his wife at the time, they were just friends. She was my grad assistant teacher for like my 1 credit running class at John Carroll. I was in college at the time. So she had told me, she's like, I'm opening up this gym, and that's how I got connected. And so I was friends with Kristen, and then through that, Scott. And then over that year's time, I started to just pour into, what I wanted out of myself at Mentality, at CrossFit. And I started to tell him like some big scary goals, like I want to start competing. I want to perform in local competitions. I want to eventually, exceed a certain level in the open and regionals. And just slowly but surely throughout the year, I started to just express those goals to him. And it's crazy because when I first started, I wasn't like anything crazy, or like I didn't think I had the spark. Sometimes you see that in people. And he went in and he just mentored me and took me under his wing, and he would give me guidance on workouts and things to work on, and local competition. He would come to my local competitions here in Cleveland. It was just the biggest support. And eventually we created this like big brother little sister relationship, and that led to qualifying for my first team regionals, then my first individual regionals, then my first CrossFit Games. And he's just been there ever since.
That's amazing. I mean, you're not going to hear too many bad comments about any of the Panchik family out in the community. No. They are as good as it gets when it comes to the CrossFit community. And I ask this a lot whenever we get a guest on who is in a situation where they're training with another athlete. This one might be unique because Scott is no longer, maybe I'm incorrect on this, but he's not actively pursuing an individual spot at the games as of right now. I think he had his official retirement recently. But to train with someone in a similar location who also has some similar goals, and you've probably been doing that with Scott over the last couple of years, but you not training with another female, you training with a male and having kind of a male-female combo. We've seen this quite a bit, and it's been very effective for a lot of other athletes. Do you find that to be something that you gravitated towards, being able to train with someone who also has some individual goals but wasn't a direct competitor? Did you find that was actually helpful for you?
Oh, so helpful. And I crave that all the time, even though we're on two different, like we have different goals now in the moment where I now have a coach and just different programming. But even still being able to train around each other, it helps so much because it never felt like I was comparing myself. And that's one thing that I know, and probably a lot of people in general, like when they're training with their competition, training could start to become competition. Right. And you start to do training pieces that should be individual training pieces, and you start to compare, and she beat me, or he beat me, or I'm behind, or I beat him, I win the day, that's another tally on the wins. Or I've never felt competitive with Scott, but what I have grown to learn is more so the mindset of an athlete and a true athlete, and what it means to be gritty, and the mentality behind the hard training days, and this just that accountability from Scott, even on the hardest training days. I remember I was having a training day where I just broke down. It was the last training piece. We were doing intervals on the Echo bike, and I was just freaking out because I wasn't hitting the times I was supposed to be hitting, and just like all the things, right? It was just a hard day in general. And just the accountability and the reassurance that like we are doing exactly what we need to be doing, and I'm here for you, and you are here helping me along too, was always helpful. And I'm very lucky that it never got to the point that we felt competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this. I think this is I love this conversation and speaking with athletes about what they find to be the perfect training environment, because it's not the same for everyone. And, we see a lot of the super teams being created and athletes going to particular locations and moving and saying, all right, I'm going to train with my competitor because it's going to push me on a daily basis. And what we found is a similar response to you, where people are finding that those types of environments can sometimes be a little overwhelming in the sense that every day, like you said, becomes a competitive environment. And is that ideal in terms of the long-term success? Is every day needing to be a competition? And that's probably not the best in terms of being able to find times to peak, being able to understand that these are training environments and not competitive environments. So I always like answering that, getting that question, and the answer always seems to be fairly uniform for the athletes that, like yourself, where they're in either an individual setting or training with someone, a male-female kind of duo that train together, saying like, we can still be competitive, but I don't feel like it's a competition every day.
I don't know about some other programs, but with Brute Strength, because I had gone, to prepare for Wodapalooza and some other competitions, quarterfinals, I was out there a week prior and we were all training together. And at first I thought, well, if we're training together, I wonder if we're going to do all the same programming. And it's actually not that. So even like the guys or the women or whoever is, your training partner, you're actually not always doing the same training pieces. You're just kind of around that same culture and community and training environment, which even from your experience too, like all you need is just someone working hard next to you. And that's just all you need. And then you're going to work hard in what you need to do. They're going to work hard in what they need to do. And it just kind of like you get pulled along. And it doesn't, and even in having one training piece, maybe that's the same a week, is a good little check-in, which I know they do. But for me, if I'm competing against you, I cannot train with you all the time because I'm going to want to beat you every single day. Like, doesn't matter. And it's hard to fight that.
Yeah, Fee, I think that's such an important lesson for a lot of athletes to learn. And I would say I had that perspective as an athlete. Was my training was for me to compete, but my training wasn't competition. And yeah, it can be helpful to be like co-suffering with people while you're training, but allowing the mind to have its own own pace, so that you're not crushing yourself emotionally and physically in training, like thinking everything is I have to win the day or whatever. Sometimes that's a hard lesson, especially for yourself. You came into an environment with Scott where you saw somebody who was at a very high level. It can be very easy to think like, oh man, I have to beat everything right off the bat. And for you to take that approach was also evident of your personality at camp, where you were just really embracing and doing what was needed to be done for the environment that you were in. And that was fun for us to see, but I think also really fun for the campers to see and share in.
Campers are competitive.
Oh yeah.
So competitive. We were doing our team events, and we were like getting together and we were strategizing. And I think I was in the back. I'm like, just do what you like to do. And someone was one of our teammates was like, no, we got to do this. We got to do this because we got to win. And I was like, just whatever feels good. And then I realized, I was like, oh man, okay, we're gonna win. Like, we gotta win now, because if we don't win, if you ain't first, you're last. Everyone being competitive in their own way. I think there's healthy doses. I think there's times to have a check-in, and to see where you're at. You don't always get the opportunity to do off-season competitions as often or as much as you want. So it is good to check in with maybe someone that does, maybe there is like wheelhouse training that does favor someone. And because yes, maybe in training, they'll get a couple more reps than you or outlift you, whatever it is. But no matter what, because you are training with them, they'll pull you along to explore paces that typically you wouldn't do alone. So there is that, other side to it. Just as long as it doesn't make you feel unsuccessful, I think is the key.
So you're bringing up at camp, we have a fun little, for those listeners out there that aren't familiar, haven't been to camp, we have a fun little competition on Friday. As part of your team, we do a team competition, and there's always a handful of people that take it extra serious. And we try to make it as lighthearted, and there is little prizes at the end, but there are a couple teams that always go after it like it's the CrossFit Games. And we're like,
they're winning.
Expectations here, calm down a little bit. We're all just here to have fun, but we make it available for everyone. one year we did a mud tug of war.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Right behind the main gym, there's a mud pit that the camp uses for the kids in the summer, and we had the campers do it as one of the. It got ugly. Like it was brutal. There were people like legitimately like ready to fight because they felt like they were on the wrong side or somebody stepped over the line. It was like way over the top. We're like, hey, we're never doing that one again.
People are gonna come out swinging.
They're like, we don't need that kind of. But you're right. Most CrossFitters do have a little competitive edge, even if they're not looking to compete at the highest of levels.
My favorite part of that tug of war was there was a team of like masters women on one side.
Yeah.
And they just 3, 2, 1, go. They just let go of the rope, and everybody fell in the mud. And then they were just like all happy, like we lost, we don't care. And you know,
and the other dudes were the other side was like a bunch of huge guys, like ready to, and you know, it was like it was a perfect. I think we got a video of it somewhere, but it was amazing. I actually put it up.
That has to be documented.
I think Karen Ward, who's our OG 11-time camper, she was on that team, and I brought it up to her and said, "Karen, you remember Karen?" Yeah.
I will, small little, you know, innocent lady. I feel like she has like a edgy side to her though.
Oh, she's the best. She's the best. I hope that she can come back to every camp moving forward. But yeah, our first 11-time camper in Karen Ward. Got to give a shout out to the OG that is Karen. She's been around for quite some time.
Do you have a favorite moment from camp since we're back on camp?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Favorite, you know what? I think the favorite moment, I don't know if it's like a specific, like one singular moment, but it is this moment of, it meant a lot. Just the opportunity to, you know, partner up and do a, you know, a partner workout was very fun because at first I think I got some comments around like, oh no, you don't want to be partners with me because I'm, you know, too slow, or I don't lift this much, or I don't go at this speed. And I'm just like, no, like we're in it. Like you're my teammate and I'm your teammate, and we're gonna pull each other along. And you know, my partner was so sweet. She was Kelly, but it was cool to have like multiple conversations and just realize that like you could partner and you know, train with and just be around whoever. It doesn't matter what your fitness level is, what your experience is in sport. And that's really what Power Monkey is about. It kind of just like brought together about like what truly Power Monkey is about. It doesn't matter your background, how elite or non-elite or whoever you are the same. Like you are walking in, you bleed the same, you bruise the same, you hurt the same as everyone else. And no matter if you're an Olympian, professional CrossFit athlete, or someone that has never touched a barbell before, you are just as equal as everyone else there, and you get to experience that. And I think that was like the thing that I love the most, being immersed in so many different fitness levels and experiences, and all feeling like one big family.
Oh, Sophia, I couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you so much for that. That was touched my heart to hear you speak so nicely of camp.
Fee, you just summed up like 10 years of us growing a mission that we didn't know was our mission. So yeah, we like Dave will remind us and himself and everybody a lot. When we started everything with Power Monkey, we thought it was really going to be to like, teach the elite athletes, or, you know, only coaches to be better coaches. And then as camp evolved and more people came, and the coaches that wanted to be a part of the community started to make this unique melting pot of like fitness, but also humanity, where it was just like everybody that comes in from such different places and looks so different and even acts so different, all have this like shared passion for just betterment, like just moving better, being better, interacting better. And you worded it so well there.
Well,
no, I was saying how truly, and I think people thought and think, and maybe, you know, bringing it back to my community, like people ask me about how Power Monkey went. I was like, it is truly for everyone. And I think when I was first starting CrossFit, like that was my first time like really tapping into something that I thought I could be great in, not truly knowing what was ahead, but I started the same way that everyone started, which was on a very clean slate, no experience, no nothing. And it just proves that like you are human, and humans could do incredible things no matter how you start, as long as you're surrounded by amazing people and leaders and mentors. So truly, like I
You just broke up just the shade there, Fee.
Yeah, you broke up right at the end there, Fee. But
oh no.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I wanted to ask something about you as an athlete, and you talked about coming into mentality and just a CrossFit in general, and not having known much about it, and then setting these smaller goals. And we know about Scott's background as being a higher level football athlete, not translating into what he did so well in the CrossFit setting. But were you an athlete at all? Did you compete at a high level in anything prior and have like a competitor's mindset, or was CrossFit your first kind of instance in being in a high level athletic environment? What was your training like prior to CrossFit?
Yeah, prior to CrossFit, I never actually was an elite athlete in anything. I always loved sports. I always loved being involved, whether it was in school clubs or teams. Mainly volleyball was the thing that I latched on to. If anything, that was the sport that was like the thing that I truly had a passion for. I wanted to actually pursue it collegiately, off season, try it as intensely as I wanted to, because my father actually wanted me to pursue music way more than sports. And I think a good chunk of my childhood was actually geared more towards music and the violin that I played for 14 years from the time I was 4, with orchestra and music classes and music theory, and weekends were the weekends of sports, right? And that was kind of, at the time, I didn't really have the option, right? Kind of just, you do what your dad says and you just do it and you just try to put a smile on. And so, yeah, so pretty much my entire life, it was a ton of music, and there was always a side of me that just craved sports. I did it at a high school level, just a couple of years, but really that's really it. I did some club volleyball in John Carroll at the university that I went to, just because I could. But this was the first time that I was actually like, you know what? I'm going to take this on intensely. I was finally able to do something that I wanted to do. And I think that's kind of what started me choosing that, you know what, if I'm going to go in, I'm going in full force. But for everyone, you don't need clearly elite level experience to become an elite, at least in CrossFit.
No, I mean, that's an important thing for people to hear. I'm curious on the music side of things. Was that something that you ever did pursue? And, were your parents, are they okay now seeing that you've had success on the CrossFit side, you being able to kind of direct your passion more towards physical endeavors rather than music? What was the music side of things that you were interested in?
Yeah, well, music was mainly violin. And my dad, he had this, my dad's actually, he's a physician, he's a neurologist, and he's always had this passion to become a musician, and never did, but always loved it. And it was cool. It was like funny. It's my mom was always, the one saying, let's just have them do sports and do what they love. And we were always very vocal about it. And my dad was like, well, you could do both. And it was like, well, you can't do both if your entire weekend is at, Cleveland Institute of Music, and not in your sport. So my dad was like, well, yeah, you just do the violin, and then you could also do volleyball, and then you could also do track, and then you could also, and it's like, no, you actually can't do it all. But now, every now and then, my dad still asks me if I've picked up the violin to fiddle around with it. And to be quite honest, it's kind of sad to say, I think it almost got so hammered into us as kids that I started to develop, not liking it and really not enjoying it. And it sucks. It sucks because music is so beautiful, and it's such a talent and such a skill it's an incredible, skill to learn. But it kind of developed into something that I was like, I do not want anything to do with the violin, because as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, that you have to like spend all day at the Institute of Music, it is not the thing for us. And I haven't gone back to it. I have bad memories.
Fia, I feel like all those layers though, and the things that your parents encourage you to do, those probably laid a really strong foundation for a sport like CrossFit, because like you just said, you can't do all these things, but you ended up like kind of falling into the sport that forces you to do all the things. And from what we saw at camp, you do them really well. And you seem like, it seems like your strength, and I need to probably pay even more attention to you now that we're friends throughout your your season, but you seem like a really balanced athlete. So I would be curious if, having not been a sports specialist in the past, you just embrace that nature of being curious about all the movements that CrossFit exposes you to, and trying to find a balanced skill set.
Yes, I mean, the curiosity behind it has been, I think, the thing that has helped propel me forward, just because there's so much, for the longest time, we've always, in music and in sports in general, but specifically music, there's this flow that you have to drill your positions and practice and your technique, and the fluidity of just the basics of scales and arpeggios, and then your double stops, and then then you get into the bulk of your session or your training session, and your music session. And I think that constant practice and constant learning and constantly trying to like perfect the basics, I guess has always been like something that I've always done as a little girl playing the violin. And then quickly you realize in CrossFit, with all these different sports, Olympic lifting and gymnastics and monostructural, you can't pursue high elite level movement if you don't perfect your basics. And that's like something that I got completely exposed in when I first started. And even at camp, there's things that I'm like, man, like if only I spent just a little bit more time practicing the fundamentals, owning positions a little bit longer. And, sometimes you just have to learn the hard way. But I think that's just a constant that never stops, right? And it's just a constant process.
I think that's something that's pretty, it's clear to us because that's what we preach. We preach this idea of foundations around basics and technique mattering, and it's something that we're endlessly kind of harping on to the people that come to camps or our courses or our online content. But it's not always something that the everyday athlete is willing to put the time into. And people end up, creating bad habits long-term because of not being able and willing to kind of put in the time that's necessary for the foundational pieces. From your perspective as an athlete, is there a way to approach that? I don't know if you coach at all, or just from your perspective, more of just having done this as an athlete, but how do you approach being able to put in foundational technical pieces that are sometimes considered to be boring, or you don't want to do it? How does that become part of your training? And is that something that you can actually convey to someone else and say, hey, there is a way to do this on a regular basis that's going to be long-term helpful for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. For the longest time, I think I struggled knowing like how to put it in a way where it made me feel successful, but it wasn't like something that I spent like, tons of time on, to the point that by the time I actually have to hit a training piece, now I'm just exhausted from practicing things. Mm-hmm. And the best way that I found, at least that helps me, for example, handstands, like anything like upside down has been such a struggle for me to pick up, naturally and fluidly. Just because I never trained positions. I always just train like, here we go, hands on the ground, let's try to walk. And so the best way that I do it now is actually incorporating it as warm-ups and as primers, and helping, and kind of almost creating like little small EMOMs, or complete a set, rest 30 seconds or 45 seconds. And you kind of just start to throw it in, like your practice starts to become like almost like primers as a warm-up. And it's kind of cool because then it's like you start to warm up. For example, I did some handstand holds to prep for snatches, right? And at the same time, now it's like I'm getting a little bit of practice in my gymnastics. It's helping my, stability overhead when I have to, hit that barbell. So that's been the best way. But I have kind of fallen victim to like, okay, I'm just going to practice this one thing and I'm going to practice it for 30 minutes. And that never works ever. So just like short little segments of, you know, and it doesn't have to, I realize it doesn't have to be complicated. Most of the time, simple is best. Actually, probably almost every time, simple is best. And the last thing I would say is, you know, incorporating that practice into your warm-ups, and also videoing warm-ups is something I got into, and videoing my movement, because movement breakdown starts to happen, yes, as you fatigue, but also you get to see that breakdown even in just, you know, your warm-up positions when you think you're moving a certain way and you're actually not. So that's been really helpful.
I love that, Fee. And Mike, I don't know what you got from that, but I heard do handstands every day. That's just what I took from that. I heard do a few minutes of handstands every day, and I completely agree, Fee.
I know. No, I heard that. I heard that all gymnastic skills are great to use as a warm up for the important things like weightlifting. So that's also, thank you for that affirmation.
Foundation around gymnastics, then build upon that.
But no, Fee, the thing that really stuck out to me that you said there, and I get this a lot, is I'll have athletes, whether they're any level, that are at camp or that reach out to me, and they'll send me a video of their max attempt. What am I doing wrong? I'm like, well, I mean, all of us do something quite wrong at our max attempt or our fatigued attempt. So the value in videoing your warm-ups and seeing what your movement habits and movement patterns are at manageable weights, that's, to me, more valuable than seeing how somebody moves their 90 to 100% weight. And I think that can be surprising for a lot of athletes when you say like, oh yeah, show me some of your snatches at 50 and 60% so I can see what's going on. And a lot of times they look way different than what the heavier ones do. So then it's this awareness factor that you only build from practice and videoing and some self-assessment.
Yes, and see, it's powerful for this to come from you too, because I feel like, you know, people don't understand, like, even probably a lot of coaches ask like, video, I want to see, you know, your last 2 lifts, not like your first, you know, your first lighter lifts. And, you know, my coach, you know, in his notes always says like, send me your last, you know, your last lift or your last 2. And sure enough, I just sent him, you know, from start to finish, all of my 5 sets. Because I think you're right. I think there is value. And even for myself, like, I used to never do it as well. I think I always videoed just to kind of throw it on the gram and flex a little bit. But you actually need to watch your videos. Like, you can't just speed through your lifts and just like, so one of the things I've gotten better at is slowing things down, like really truly seeing each phase and almost like becoming your own coach, not waiting for your coach to give you that feedback, like truly like learning and soaking it in and trying to become your own coach in your own training sessions.
I think this is such a huge point. You guys are making such excellent points for the everyday listener out there that is looking to take some tidbits into their own training. And, you know, we stress the importance of filming and having your camera be a tool for you. And the point that you just made there, Fee, I think is an important one, where yes, you want your coach to be able to give you feedback, because I think that's really helpful, right? Maybe the coach has some more technical expertise as to what's going right, what's going wrong. They can look and give you some feedback and say, let's tweak this a little bit and make it a little bit more efficient. But the highest level athletes out there are able to make those changes on their own. And some of it comes from being able to watch and say, I can see my body doing what it's doing, and I know how to make that change. And I like to make this comparison because I think it's a good one for people to understand. Athletes at the highest level can make changes statically without needing a coach to tell them or a video to see it. That's when you have a really good idea of how your body moves within space. At an even higher level, an athlete can make instantaneous changes through dynamic action because they know what went right and what went wrong. That can only happen through, yes, a coach helping, but also you being able to analyze your movement time and time again and retesting and seeing what's right and what's wrong. So yes, putting it up on the gram is incredibly helpful and cool to show the world how big you are. But there's a training tool in there for you to become a better athlete. The coach is there as a help, but the highest level athletes are able to analyze and make the changes on their own through analyzing and then eventually being able to use it without, if that makes any sense.
You nailed it, Dave. And I always get asked, and I love this question because I love having, you know, the conversation of what would you have changed, when you first started. And it's literally that if I could have just cared enough and really like realize the value of everything that you just said, Dave, and really be diligent, and diligent not in the way of just doing it, but like, or going through the motions, but truly investing in seeing and learning and trying to understand and try to make those changes. I feel like my movements now, I still wouldn't be struggling on the basics, right? I'd be able to build on, more, intensity on certain things. For example, even, with going back to handstand walking, you're seeing, at the games level, now it's not just handstand walking. It is walking up and down stairs, ramps, P-bars now across obstacles. Now it's, you got to hit a high level volume of whether it's snatches or ring muscle ups, and you got to flip over it onto your hands, and you have to be pretty darn proficient at it, because if you're in the back of the pack, you're getting cut now. And so it's to that degree, whether or not you want to go to the games or whether or not you're just trying to progress in anything. I think there's so much value, and I think it all comes down to just like truly understanding the why behind, the small details.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm going to mention this one thing and then we'll move on to the next question here. But with regards to handstand walking, for all the listeners out there, there is an enormous difference between actually walking on your hands versus just preventing a fall, an inevitable fall. Those are completely two different things. Almost everyone who does not understand how to walk proficiently on their hands is just preventing a fall because they're strong enough to do so. So they take a step and their shoulder is strong enough to prevent a collapse from happening. That is not a handstand walk. All right. So I think it's really important to understand the technical pieces, and it's the more we become exposed to higher level handstand challenges, obstacles, and the other things that you mentioned, those are going to expose the athletes that only are preventing a fall rather than actually walking on their hands correctly. So
if anybody wants some help with that, Dave just did a video on YouTube that's how to handstand walk in any direction. So
that might, we'll check it out. It's actually a cool video. Fee, I would go and check out some of the challenges in there and see if you can put up an Instagram video of you doing the final challenge in there. It's called the square with a little elevation. Give it a try. I think you could pull it off.
I am going to accept that challenge, but you're going to have to give me a little bit of time, because he needs to be able to walk in a straight line like nobody's business first. Which, you know what, Dave, to your point though, exactly what you said was probably one of the biggest things when you said handstand walking is not the same as preventing, the fall. And that's kind of me to the point of, now, you get so fatigued where you're just like, don't fall before this 50-foot marker. And you're just doing everything that takes. And it is just the feeling of, man, I should have, drilled these positions more. I mean, it happens all the time, but it happens to the best too.
Sure.
And you don't have to be a gymnast to perfect, your handstand walking. And you actually don't have to be really much anything to be in a great Olympic lifter or a gymnast. You have to just start well. You just have to learn as best as you can when you first start, not realize it years and years later down the road. And then you're just like, oh shit, they were right. Now I have to restart everything.
Come see Power Monkey. He'll help you out with all those little pieces.
Fee, yes. I'm just going to soften and paraphrase what you just said there, where you don't have to be much of anything to be an Olympic weightlifter.
Agreed.
You just gave Dave some fuel there, but I think I know where you're going with is people can be so intimidated by the level of skills that they see in gymnastics or Olympic weightlifting that they either don't try them or they don't try to learn them better. And it's really what we teach and what you're practicing and demonstrating as a high level athlete are really accessible to everybody. Like it's always amazing to see the different types of movers come to us and that can kick up. I mean, Dave had our nutrition coach, Mike Malloy's mom, who's like pushing 70 years old, doing handstands on the wall. And then she was doing overhead press and SOTS presses with me, and she'd never done those before. And it's fun to see what people are truly able to do when they take the time to slow down and learn the fundamental pieces that build a higher level skill.
Mike, to that point, I spoke with Miss Malloy at one point, and she was absolutely ecstatic with the squatting at your station because she didn't think that she could actually squat to full depth. And you got her down in a completely comfortable squat, full depth, and she was over the moon about it. So I thought that was really cool.
It's our favorite thing at Power Monkey. Break people's barriers that they set on themselves. Oftentimes, I think most people want to move better. They just don't either think they can or they don't know how, and that's what's fun to get everybody to that level.
Agreed. Fee, we're coming towards the end, but I'm curious about upcoming events. Clearly, we're right in the thick of next stage of the competitive season here. We had a couple of the semifinal workouts announced. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the announcement of those workouts and how you're feeling leading into the next stage.
Yes. So Granite Game, well, I'm doing Granite Games here in just a few short weeks on June 3rd. And I know Syndicate's, the first one actually this weekend for people tuning in. First one's on Friday. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited. I'm excited in a way where it's like my training has, completely shifted from what I was doing to this past year with brute strength. And we've completely prioritized, hypertrophy and building on and putting on mass and building, my foundation in more so lifting, because that's what really was the biggest struggle for me these last seasons. And so one of the events is, Mike, I'm sure you're gonna hit that at some point. You have to now. It's the 3 cleans, 2 front squats, 1 jerk. And I went through it and it is wild. Like, it is the thing that I think if you don't practice it and know your lifts, like, you could truly get sucked into, the volume and the intensity of that complex. But I'm excited because I've been working so hard on my strength that I'm just excited to just be better than last year. And that's really all I could ask for. It's hard to not compare your lifts to the other girls and to the heavier lifters. And it's hard to also not maybe have a moment where you feel unsuccessful, where it's like, man, I wish my lifts were at this, but it's just kind of knowing that's just where you're at. And as long as I'm better than, who I was last year, which I'm so confidently am, that's all I could ask for. The legless rope climb, 10 rounds. I love legless rope climbs. I think body weight movements for me have always been something that I've gotten excited for. I have always shown up on those. And when I see an event like that, like, I want to hit a home run on that one.
I saw that workout and I'm like, strategy wise, is it just all out sprint for the 170 feet between each round? Is that kind of, I can't imagine that if you have that break between each one that you guys are going to be tired from the rope climbs. Is it just sprint, climb for 10 rounds?
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to feel like 10 rounds. It's going to feel like you're doing 10 rope climbs for time with maybe, 10 to 15 seconds in between, going back and forth. And I think the best athletes that know their capacity on the legless are going to be able to truly sprint and run fast. And they're going to be okay with having a high heart rate the entire time. The people that struggle a little bit with pulling their body weight are going to have to, maybe pace it out a little bit so they don't blow up, because as we know, the only way you could get up on a legless rope climb is if your arms are ready for it. And if you get to the point of failure, you're just stuck staring at the rope until your arms are ready to go again. So that's going to be pretty nasty. I'm excited.
First one, it's going to be a great start to the weekend. Well, you got a few weeks. You can get some good recon going on the next couple of weeks, watching the athletes compete in the first 2 weekends before you got Granite Games. But we'll be pulling for you and we'll be watching and cheering from afar. So, you got Power Monkey on your side.
Hell yeah, team. Thank you guys. I'm feeling that from the stadium, from the Viking stadium.
Excellent. Well, some quick last minute questions if you're up for them.
Yeah.
All right. First one, what sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Weightlifting.
Yes.
Oh man, that was cool.
Where's the buzzer that we can hit it for celebration? This only happens like 1 every 12 podcasts, Fee. So weightlifting, we celebrate really hard when somebody chooses.
I'll preface it. It used to be gymnastics because I'm small and I'm like, I always get, Fee, have you never done gymnastics? I'm like, no, never done it. I'm built like weightlifting has always been the thing that's been scary for me, just because I am a smaller athlete when it comes to just my size. So I've been able to overcome a lot of scary thoughts, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, you've evolved as a human. That's all it is. It's just the next progression into, you know, an athlete. So we're so excited for that for you, Fee.
I like
still
that.
Working on the evolution component there. All right. Next question. Any guests that you think would be great for us to have on the podcast? Someone you've come across, or a mentor, or anyone in your community that might be good for us to have on?
Yes, I don't know if you've had her on. I'm sure maybe you have. Julie Fouché. She is just like the sweetheart of the world, and I've been able to, you know, connect with her and build a great relationship with her, and a friendship even. But I just think she's just doing incredible things, not just in medicine, but she's, you know, bridging the gap between CrossFit health, you know, what truly the methodology is on what we do, and what even you guys do, bringing, you know, the community together in a way that builds each other up. I think she's just incredible, and she's just insane at what she does, and she also has just such a raw passion for it. She doesn't do it because she has to, but because she wants to, and I think she would just be an incredible person to chat with.
Oh, agreed. Julie's been out to camp a while back, and we love her, and obviously she's done so much for the community in so many different ways. I'd love to have her on. I told this funny story at camp, but when we were first starting out Power Monkey, I was kind of a traveling salesman with a ring thing like over my shoulder. Like that was our first product, and I would just travel around the country with a ring thing over my shoulder, and she was the first to purchase a ring thing.
Get out! Oh, so she has to come onto your podcast.
Julie's gym in Ann Arbor, I think it was CrossFit Ann Arbor at the time. Her coach, they bought 3 ring things the first time I went out to gym, and I was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna sell this!" And I was always grateful to Julie.
We're best friends now.
This is like 2011 when we first started doing. So it was like over 10 years ago, and she was the first to be on our side. So I'm all in on trying to get Julie more involved.
Love that. Get her on.
Yep. Books. Any book or TV show that you may have come across lately that you want the listeners to check out?
You know what? Books or TV shows, or no, books. Not something that, so I actually just started like actually consistently reading. I started the book Malala, and it is an autobiography of, at the time she was 16 years old. She was a girl from Pakistan. She got shot in women's education and opportunity and rights, and just an incredible story. And I think it's just so powerful because it kind of just shows no matter who you are, no matter what age you are, you're able to stand for something that you believe in. And that's really truly what her autobiography is about, and my most recent read. So
all right, fantastic. Another one for us to add to the list. Mike, anything you want to add here before we close it up?
Fee, I just want you back at camp. So we need to get you back and keep you involved with us. We love you so much.
Hey, keep me on. I'm coming next year.
You got it. Well, Fee, good luck with the season. Like I said, we're going to be following along. Really appreciate the time. For all the listeners out there, be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Mike Service. On behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Mike Service, and Jordan Samuel helping out along the way this time around. Till next time, thank you all for listening.